Real quick, the only ask I could ever have of you guys is to help spread the word so we can help more women lose body fat, build muscle, reach their goals, and feel insanely confident. And the only way we can do that is if you rate, review, and share this podcast. So the single thing I ask for you to do is if you could leave a review. It will take you 10 seconds. And it will mean the absolute world to me and may change the world of someone else. You know, when you're looking to lose X amount of weight or you're looking to reach a type of goal, you go into a deficit or like you're learning all these things that is going to make that like weight come off, that fat come off. You know, you're training a certain way, you're working out a certain way, and you're doing that for 4, 5, 6 months. If you're doing it the right way, this is where your mindset can really play tricks on you and where you have to be in control of your mind rather than your mind being in control of you. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Macro Hour with Nikkiey Stott, co-founder of WarriorBabe. And on this podcast, we talk about mindset, methodologies, and tactics that will help you lose body fat, build muscle, be strong, and feel insanely confident. I'm your host, Nikkiey Stott, and welcome to today's episode 145. Which, first of all, I cannot believe we are that many episodes into this podcast. And I want to give a shout out to all you listeners, man. I love you guys. Thank you so freaking much for all of the love and most importantly, the support that you guys give this podcast. I read through the reviews. We've been in the top 10 within the US, within the fitness category for, I think, for a very, very, very long time. If it's not top 10, it's top 20. And that's because you guys leaving a review really, it makes this podcast bump up in the charts. And also, more importantly, it gets to more viewers and listeners so that they can come into this sphere of learning. So if you guys can take a second to leave a review, I appreciate it. If you've already done, I appreciate you. You guys listening, I appreciate you. Thank you so freaking much. Anyway, on with the episode. So today, this one, I think the last couple of episodes that I've done have been based off of the questions that I got when I dropped on my Instagram story, the little like Q&A box on my story asking for questions that you guys would want to be answered on this podcast. And I do that time and time again because it does help me hear how I can help you guys. And it helps me big time because sometimes I'm, doing episode after episode after episode. I'm like, man, I don't know what to talk about today. So when I drop that there, it helps big time. And this one in particular, it's one of our star clients. She knows who she is, one of them. There's many of them inside of WarriorBabe. But she asked this question, and this question may be geared more towards like the advanced individual that is, year after year inside their fitness routine, working out, tracking macros, maybe leaning into more of the intuitive side of eating. This podcast is really going to be geared for you guys, but I don't want to single out anybody else that's listening to this. It could really help you understand where you could get to along your journey, which is not honestly what not a lot of people talk about in the fitness space. A lot of it is just still geared around quick fixes and 3 months to this result and crash diets. It still amazes me that that's still the narrative that's going on. But if you are listening to this podcast today, and I hope you do, I hope I didn't single you out there, but know that once you do get the consistency down, the adherence to building new supporting habits, eating right, working out in a time, like for a consistent amount of time, this babe that's asking this question has been in the WarriorBabe program for 4 or 5 years maybe. And she's done a lot of it by herself, which is pretty cool. She was in our Blueprint program. She's also one of our ambassadors too, by the way. But she's definitely gearing into like this question. I can understand where it's coming from, and I'll get to it, I promise. And more seasoned individuals. And more importantly, what I'm trying to say here as I get into the question and again to the podcast is this podcast is going to be heavily based on my experience, my story, and then also with where I'm at my journey right now, like 10 years in. Like 9 years in. I can't believe that's been that long. That's crazy. But also geared more to like what I've seen some of my tenured clients experience too as well. And how it, let's just get to the question. So the question that I got from this seasoned babe is how to maintain a look of a cut without being in a cut, and how to make it sustainable. So for those of you guys that maybe be starting out your journey right now, like the biggest thing that you need to get down is consistency, right? That is your main priority, your main focus, like learning about food, learning what food is made up of. Some people don't even know what macros are. And it's like, okay, let's get to like the first milestone of learning like how much protein I'm eating in a day, and carrying that type of, that type of work and applying it consistently for a couple months and maybe even like a year, a couple years on end before you can really think about this concept that I'm going to dive into today. Because in order to really successfully do what she's asking, you have to be at it for a year, not even a year, like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, like 5 years, 6 years, and more so have your general knowledge, like understanding and knowledge rooted in concepts that will serve the successfulness of this question. Because you really have to know what macros are. You have to be tracking for a while, because at that time when you're doing that, especially beginners, it's like you're spending a lot of time looking at a food. You're spending a lot of time putting it on a scale and weighing it out. You're spending a lot of time like learning these different types of habits and behaviors of which you need to kind of rewrite the narrative and story that you have lived with for so long. And that takes time. To do it successfully and to do it sustainably, that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And so the beginning, in order to achieve the answer to this question, in order to like unlock like getting to maintaining a look of being in a cut without being in a cut and how to do it sustainably, you have to do like the basic work over and over and over again. And that is tracking your macros, it's getting to the gym. And most importantly though, it's like, it's being consistent. But then the big thing that I want to kind of highlight on here, which is a part of the answer, is your mindset. In order to maintain a look of a cut and without being in a cut, you have to successfully have gone through a cut, a maintain, maybe even a little bit of a build, coming back into a cut, then going into, and then this is where the trick is, successfully going from a cut to a maintain without being a fool and eating whatever you want to eat. Ladies, is what I'm talking about. And maybe some of you, this does apply for everybody. It's like, when you're looking to lose X amount of weight, or you're looking to reach a type of goal, you go into a deficit, or like you're learning all these things that is going to make that like weight come off, that fat come off. You're training a certain way, you're working out a certain way, and you're doing that for 4, 5, 6 months. If you're doing it the right way, maybe even 7, 8, and then like to break that routine and then be in an area of which you sometimes have to either reduce the type of training that you're doing, you're adding in more food specifically. I've talked about this in like 2 or 3 podcasts ago, where I talked about moving from, was it a build to a cut or cut to a build? One of those. But you have to, you're increasing your food here at this point. And then that can this is where your mindset can really play tricks on you, and where you have to be in control of your mind rather than your mind being in control of you. And this is a part of the answer. This is how you successfully maintain a look of being in a cut without being in a cut. Is if you can successfully move from a cut into a maintain and not, spend 4 out of 7 days of the week paying attention to the increase in macros that you're doing. And then the other 4 is like, oh, whatever. Like I just spent the last 6, 7 months really focusing on losing body fat and being in a deficit that I can I'm going to go, enjoy a dinner out. And then that turns into 4 dinners in a row without you paying attention to what you're eating on a daily basis. Not mention that you could do that, right? But then it's like, okay, then that turns into a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And that's where things get a little bit of control gets lost. And that's where the unwanted, and I talked about this before in the most recent podcast, but it's like, that's where the unwanted body fat can come on very, very, very quickly. And so right there, you're not being able to maintain a look of being in a cut without being in a cut. And so I share that right there, how I answered that, because one of my clients who I still work with to this day, like 4 years, we've gone from cut, maintain to build, from build to, or like, a little bit of a build, not much, but being in a little bit of a surplus, back down into working our way through maintain, going back into a cut. And then we've gone from a cut and we've gone back up into maintain. And my girl, she knows who she is. When we first started going from cut to maintain each time, what's like an analogy I can use for that? Like the reins got lost. Like, and this is a mindset thing that I had to work on with her, because she felt like what I just shared with you guys, she felt like she spent so much time in a cut and paying attention so closely. It's like the hardest work that I have to say is when you do move from that and reaching and attaining your goal to being able to sustainably hold on to it. And not even just sustainably, but like being able to still control yourself in a manner which you controlled yourself in a cut. So, going back to that story, it's like she, every time moving, and a lot of people struggle with this. It's not just her. I know it's a bunch of other warrior babes and a bunch of other, maybe you guys, individuals that maybe are listening to this, or maybe it's my girl that's listening to this that asked the question. As spot on as you can be when you are in a cut, you have to maintain somewhat of that level of adherence as you're moving into maintain. Once you move into a maintain and like you successfully moved into it without like adding on unwanted body fat too quickly, like usually what I see, I'm trying to pinpoint a little bit more here, but when people move from a cut to maintaining, it's usually like they scheduled it around vacations or travel, or they schedule it around some type of an event, or they schedule it around this time of year. And while that is admirable because it's a goal that you're working towards, it's almost like it's like added pressure on you to maintain, to move into a maintaining phase for yourself, like more strictly in a sense. Because the way I look at it is like with those travels, that's how you get lost in, oh, I'm done with the cut and now I'm maintaining, but like, I have dinner with friends tonight and over the weekend, and then I travel next week, and then like you not paying attention so much to what you're eating and kind of just letting it. I've been there too. I want to highlight that. Like I have been there a few times where I have totally lost the rein for a couple weeks on end. And then you get to like week 4 or 5 of you trying to transition into a maintenance phase, and you're like, dude, why do I feel like I'm so far back from where I was when I just finished my cut like 5 weeks ago? And then you got to take like a deep, honest look at yourself, and you got to be like, damn, it's because like, I timed this transition wrong. I didn't get to purely focus on like increasing my calories at an appropriate like increase, paying attention to it on a 2 to 3 week thing. Like that time period, I just want to highlight here it's so important. But once you get into the maintaining and you've leveled out your body, recognizing that you're increasing the food, that of which you want to go on vacations, and this is where it becomes like a balance. That of which you have a couple dinners scheduled with friends or events or whatever. And mind you, like you can work those things into your macros. Like I don't want to just like, people are like, oh my God, this is so strict. Like if you want to do it the right way, you have to go through these periods of which you are mentally aware of why things may have spiraled off track. And that being when you're moving from cut to a maintenance phase. But once you're in the maintenance phase, dude, it's like, I love maintenance phase. Like I spend majority of my time there. You can intuitively track, you can intuitively eat, you can, you're training how your body recognizes. And most importantly, this is where the plug is, like, when you get to the level of which your body is maintaining at with food, and your body is eating that level of food consistently over time, you can play around with, going out to eat, going on vacation, like X, Y, and Z, and doing whatever you want and being able to achieve that look of being in a cut. And I'm saying that because it's exactly where I am right now. But this has taken years, you guys. Like, this has taken so much time and understanding and learning my body and being real and honest with myself in times and periods of which I haven't been insanely consistent, or if I'm changing from a cut to a maintain phase, and like if I fall short the first 2 weeks and I got to stay at the same macros to try and get my body to adapt and metabolism to adapt to this caloric intake before I increase the caloric intake in X, Y, and Z. So it's taken so many years. So to like answer this question, why I said at the beginning I was going to share stories, is because it really takes like due diligence and understanding yourself and your body. And maintaining a look of a cut without being in a cut, it comes from years of really programming your body in a certain way. I have to say that too. Hey, just want to drop a huge appreciation to you guys listening to the show. It means a lot. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and there's so much more to come with it. If you are enjoying it, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that tons. And also, it would help this podcast reach others who need to hear these messages too. Thanks so much, guys. Let's get back to the show. I think why, I get this a lot too from people that I work with. Like, how do I still have my like abs are showing through when I'm taking pictures on Instagram? I'm like, guys, like this is like 9 years. Like this is like, and doing it the right way, almost 10 years, like doing it the right way. Like I was in the industry years before that. But I was flip-flopping around, trying a bunch of different programs, trying so many different things that never got me to be able to sustainably follow through on anything until I found the world of macronutrients and tracking macronutrients and being able to gain that knowledge and understanding and putting food on a plate and doing that so many times that like I can tell you what a portion size of protein looks like that's, chicken without actually weighing it. Like there's so many things that I had to do. Like the work that sometimes a lot of people don't see through social media is the work that I do behind the scenes. And that's just like consistently on end. I walk the talk. I preach, what I do day in and day out to our community, to women, to our coaches. And so doing that for that long a period of time, I know that like when I spend, like I just got back from Switzerland last week, and then I was away before that in Miami. And I don't really I pay attention to protein, but I don't really pay attention to me eating, my macros one way. And I do heavily intuitively eat nowadays. And I am so proud of where my body is at, and how it can still like look like those things that I share with you. But that is literally just from the years of which I'm like kind of like what I talked about earlier. I know I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but it's seeing what the clients like go through that I've worked with, and that are inside of WarriorBabe that can't transition smoothly, like the mindset from a cut to maintaining appropriately, and that being like without increasing or going off the rails or like increasing your food too fast, which I talked about a couple of podcasts ago. But at the same time, you guys, you also, in the process of doing all of this and what, I have obviously done with my physique and my body is I have built so much more muscle mass in those 9 years, right? So, and when you're able to, you have more muscle mass, that naturally increases your basal metabolic rate, that of which you burn calories, just sitting, resting, talking. Me sitting here, I'm burning calories because my muscles it's an active tissue. They're always constantly alive and working and doing all of the things. So I've naturally increased that. So that of which no matter if I eat less, like on days when I'm traveling, and then I eat more when I come back home, or I eat more when I'm traveling, or X, Y, and Z, there's still somewhat of a balance, which I freaking love about this lifestyle too, by the way, because when you do all the things I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, like you really focus on the basics, you really hone in, rewriting the narrative for yourself, you really hone in on the work and you do it consistently, and you do track your macros for a period of time, you can totally come off of the macro train and be able to exist in a space of which you're really proud with your body and not have to track macronutrients. And I know that's like for a lot of everyone, I always hear all the time, it's like, I don't want to have to track macros for the rest of my life. Well, you don't have to track macros for the rest of your life, but you surely do have to do some of the work on the first couple of years of your journey to be able to get to that kind of stage, and of which I talked about, be able to get to this type of stage. Like, you have to go through experiencing coming out of a cut and kind of, nicely fucking it up. Like, you have to experience that. And you probably have to experience it a couple of times, just like I shared with my client did, before it finally actually clicked right before she got pregnant that, oh shit, like I'm actually doing it the right way. And she gained the appropriate weight coming, or she maintained her weight and gained gradually at a good rate, coming from a cut to maintain. Like, it took 3 or 4 times, to be honest with her. And that's, it's whatever at which you guys need to change on your own accord. Okay. So like, even though like I each time still coached her, each time still brought this awareness, but sometimes it doesn't resonate until it resonates. And that's okay. You just have to allow, like, from a coaching perspective, just have to allow the client to go through the grooves of learning and be there to be direct as a coach, but also, tell her point blank, hey, I see this maybe is happening, so we need to pull it back in. But anyway, like, you got to go through multiple times of fucking up. You got to go through a cut to maintain. You got to go through, experiencing it, for which maybe doesn't make you want to do it again, essentially, right? I mean, that's how a lot of change happens, is some people that are overweight, they know they need a change, so they get into a fitness program. Those of you that want to maintain a look without being in a cut, you have to go through recognizing the periods at which you transition from a cut to a maintenance, and you maybe messed up, right? But the most important thing, so that's like the answer pretty much to that question, is on top of like all the other things, like the consistency through that, like, making sure you're getting good sleep, you're training, like all the normal basic like stuff that people know to do. The biggest thing is a mindset. The biggest thing is be able to control yourself as you transition from a cut to a maintenance. But how to make it sustainable, you guys, really is allowing your body to be in the maintenance phase for majority of the time, and to not, at the beginning, it's like you do go in a cut to maintain, from cut to maintain, because you're trying to get your body adapted to those specific things, and like you're trying to build muscle, so you have to go up into a little bit of a maintenance, and then you obviously, like, you come back down to see the work you put in, and then then you can bump up back into maintenance when you're really happy with the body that you've built. But along the way, you have to go through those phases, because in order to change your body composition, you have to eat more food, and you're not going to be able to do that and build more muscle when you're in a deficit. So, but how to make it sustainable is honestly, like I share with you guys, majority of the time I live in a maintenance phase. So I'm eating, I'm eating anywhere upwards of like 25 to 2,700 calories, and that is something of which, like, if I fall short on a couple of days, or I'm maybe a little over on a couple of days, there's somewhat of a balance to like the way that I go in and I train and I work out, and I keep that all consistent. Now, something I actually want to add in here, like almost like bringing your awareness to, is there will be days too where like you are like, keep in mind what people don't share on social media, maybe something too that I could get better at, is like I am bloated some days and I have my period still. So I experience that uncomfortableness within my body on a monthly basis. So there are tons of days where I don't feel as confident in like my physique, but like that doesn't get shown. So maybe I should share that a little bit more. But knowing that, like, even though you want to maintain a look of a cut without being in a cut, every single day you're not going to look like you're in a cut. Okay. So keep that too in the back of your mind. But overarching though, like it is totally possible to do that for majority of the time, looking like, you're like, what do I say? Shredded year round. You can totally do that, but you have to really go through everything that I shared in this podcast first. You have to go through, if you're a beginner, the basics and consistently following through and really working on changing your body composition. That doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't usually happen in 1 year. It happens in a couple of years. And then as you get more tenured into your journey, it's like, okay, how am I successfully being honest with yourself? Am I successfully moving in and out of a cut to maintenance at a good rate? Am I being honest with myself as I, maybe I'm intuitively eating, but like, are you actually, it's another really good point. Like a lot of people say they intuitively eat or they know how to eat well, even after years of tracking macros, but like, are you actually doing that aspect right? Because if you're not doing that aspect right and you're not eating enough, or like the weekends are falling off, you're not going to look like you're in a cut then, right? You're not going to be able to maintain a look of being in a cut if you're intuitively eating the wrong way. So it's actually a whole nother bucket that I didn't touch on, but like as I'm talking and kind of rambling here with you guys, that kind of just like popped into my head. It's like after years of doing this, people say they intuitively eat, but like if you want to maintain a look of being in a cut without being in a cut, you have to intuitively eat the right way. And so what comes to my mind for that is, because this is what I do, no matter what, make sure that I am getting in enough protein on a daily basis. That is a macronutrient that like I will not sacrifice. Seriously. So if you're intuitively eating and like you're under eating on your protein, you're overeating on your carbs, you're overeating on your fats, to achieve the answer of this question, you will not achieve maintaining in a cut without being in a cut. So that's actually a whole nother can of worms to open up. Because I always fitness people share on Instagram that they're intuitively eating, and that's you can totally intuitively eat, but if you want this goal of maintaining a look of being in a cut without being in a cut, you have to intuitively be eating the right way. And you can't you've got to prioritize your protein. And then to intuitively eat too. I kind of touched on this a little bit. I'm rambling all over the place, you guys, but I feel like it's good. That's what the podcast is for sometimes. And I'm kind of just bumping around in my stories and experiences along with tagging in the clients that I've worked with, and I have seen this happen. But you also too, like you can have the days going out like I shared, but like even on the days you go out and you're planning, having a night out with friends, another thing just popped in my brain. See, I just need to talk sometimes to you guys. Alcohol. Like if you guys are trying to maintain a look of being in a cut without being in a cut, but you're drinking alcohol, that's something I don't do very often at all. And I think that that's a big reason why. I know alcohol is a big thing, like having a glass of wine, going out with friends, having a couple of drinks here and there. I know that that's a lifestyle, and that's something that I don't do very often. So I think that does help play a role of being as lean and as defined as I am on a yearly basis. But even if you are going out with friends and like you're going on a vacation or you're going to an event, it's like still on those days that happens, you still have to like intuitively eat enough protein. You still have to intuitively make that a part of, your, like it has to be a part, like a top of your awareness. So all in all, guys, thanks for being here for the ramble there. I hope that it answered the question. I hope that it served a purpose in terms of like, even if you're a beginner, these are things that you can look forward to, but like you can't intuitively eat 6 months into your journey. You just can't. You don't know enough, to be honest. You're still a little bit ignorant when it comes to the nutrition side of things. You need to really develop your skills in that sense in order to get to the concepts that I'm kind of talking about here. When you want to look to maintain a cut without being in a cut, and then also how to make it sustainable. So, all in all, to close it out, I think the most important thing in being able to do that is moving from a cut to maintenance, and being honest with yourself in that process, and not, eating too much, or scheduling too many things around that transition. And then when you get there, you can totally do those things, but you have to allow your body to adapt to it. And then second thing is making sure that you're intuitively eating the right way. All right, guys. Cool. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. I enjoy speaking out loud. Sometimes I just, no list of things I want to talk about with you guys and just spitballing it. But yeah, hope that made sense. Hope that you guys gained some things. I will see you then in the next podcast. Peace out. Hey guys, real quick. If you're interested in taking your body to the next level, lose body fat, build more muscle, feel more confident, do it alongside one of our 30+ professional coaches. Work one-on-one with her to eliminate all of the guesswork that you may have. And all you need to do is just do the work that she tells you to do to get to those goals of yours. Now, to learn more, click the link below this podcast and apply to our VIP program right now.